host for the evening, uh, Captain Vipul Choudhary. I am a real estate advisor with 15 plus years of experience, having done my MBA in finance from MBI Gurgaon. I served with the Gorkha Rifles in the Indian Army. I welcome you today to this talk on Value Talks. Value Talks is an advisory platform which provides advice in finance, real estate allied fields, armed forces transition, and career advisory. Today we have with us Colonel Biraj Sahay, who is an army officer with a total experience of 30 plus years, out of which his experience in civil construction is more than a decade now. He is ably supported by his two daughters, who are both architects, and he runs his business by the name of Colonel's Construction. He's based out of Gurgaon. Topic for today is how to make spacious houses. आप अपना घर बनाना चाहते हैं, लेकिन लगता है कि कैसा भी घर बना लो छोटा ही होगा. You want to build houses, but ऐसा मतलब जितने लोग हैं या जिस तरह का आप घर बनाना चाहते हैं उससे लगता ही नहीं है कि कभी उसकी आपकी जरूरत स्पेस की जरूरत पूरी हो पाएगी. So are there ways by which a house can be designed well in a way so that houses look better, they look good, and they provide you the required space? That would be the topic for today. With this, I welcome Colonel Sahay. Sir, how are you doing today?
Good. Thank you.
Sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let me first thank you for the overwhelming response, both on the live viewership as also on the YouTube, which we got based on our discussion last time, that was mistakes one makes while making a house. Subsequent to the last webinar, we received a lot of requests on guiding those who are planning to make a house, those who already have a house, or those who are planning to buy a house, on various aspects they wanted to know. So as the expanse is very wide, we decided that we will take one topic at a time and keep covering them periodically. Towards that aim, we shall be discussing today, as what Captain Vipul brought out, smart design, spacious homes. Before we go to the subject proper, let me cover in brief what we do. Colonel's Construction is one of the companies in the Colonel's group of companies, and this company is involved into building construction, right from residential, that is still plus 4 or whatever as per the requirement, bungalows, flats, villas, etc. We also do commercial, offices, shops, warehouses, restaurants, pubs, resorts, etc. We have also undertaken old building restoration, wherein we have efficiently restored old dilapidated structures, and apart from ensuring adequate strength, we made them beautiful spaces worth competing with the most contemporary. As far as the business models, we have a few types of options. First is the turnkey, very simple. In this, you have a plot or a land. We do the complete construction, right from designing to interiors, as also all the paperwork till the time we hand over the keys, and thereafter we take care of your maintenance also. This is the typical contractual agreement where different documents are needed to be signed. Next is collaboration. That is, if you have a plot, but for some reason you do not wish to build using your own money, we work out the financials and we pitch in the funds and make the building on profit sharing basis. And third is a partnership, which we only do with friends and families, like especially the armed forces officers or relatives of the armed forces officers. And this, suppose 4 families want to make a building wherein there are 4 floors. We do the entire construction part, and the 4 families, they put in the money. In case there are only 3 and the 4 floors can be made, then we pitch in for the 4th floor, and the financials are accordingly worked out. By the grace of God, our clientele has grown exponentially, and it includes respectable individuals from various walks of life, corporates to government and others. Apart from construction, we have our in-house teams for architecture, interior designing and implementation of the same, as also for government related approvals. So in short, we are a one-stop shop. In case anyone is interested in it, in doing any types of business with us, it will be very good for us, and we'll be happy to join with you. Vipul, we can start with the topic of today, that is smart design.
So,
I just I think before I hand over to Vipul, as Vipul brought out, whatever may be the size of the plot on which you're planning to make a house, it is often quite disillusionary to find it being short for space. It may be 200 yards, or it may be 500 yards, or 1000 yards. So, a good architect can easily understand your requirements and work out a viable solution for you. However, the quacks may not be able to do it, and they may not be able to do the right space planning. Your space planning should be such that they flow one from the other. It should not be that when you enter the house, you straight away go land up into the dining room or the kitchen. So the main entrance should ideally lead to the drawing room and not to the dining or kitchen. Ideally, the flow is drawing, living, dining, and the sequence is best, and this is a normal sequence we try to follow. Often, you will find many architects and designers that are fixated with their own ideas, wherein they want to impose something which they like onto you. In our case, we try to understand what you want, and we accordingly modify the design as per your style and your liking, and not as per what we have been thinking. However, we will surely give you advice and the technical expertise on it, and the good, bad, advantage, disadvantage of the same. Like we had a case wherein the lady of the house wanted a storeroom next to the kitchen. Nowadays, that concept is very rare. So if she wanted it, and we designed it accordingly. I always give one advice to people, that one of the things which you can do to make your house bigger, look bigger, is to reduce the number of items which you have not been using for the last 2-3 years. That is, learn to discard things which are not of great use. So let's discuss a few of them. Vipul, we can go in further.
So my question would be, to start with, that can the design of an house actually impact the space utilization, या मतलब जो है सो है?
The design of the house is very, very important, and it heavily impacts the space availability. The basic difference between a good architect and that the design of an architect and a contractor is that an architect will try and make your house more spacious without violating on the legalities. That is, there's something called floor area ratio, the FAR, or going for illegal construction, having additional heights. These things are the normal things which a contractor will advise you. Whereas an architect, he will advise you how to make the space available look more spacious. In planning the house layout, the room should be easy to access and not so unique that they cause frustration from going from one room to the other. And so spaces should follow intuitively from one to the other.
How do you do that, sir? I mean, how
So-
do you intuitively follow from one to the other?
Okay, so there are many ways you can make a house layout very efficient. And also you should try in the current era, especially, that your house should be energy efficient and environment friendly too. So one of the thing is, avoid having corridors or passageways just to reach a room. You understand that passage is generally not used much, and it is more of a waste. So avoid, especially if it is a small plot. Next is, wherever possible, avoid partitions, which can be avoided. Like, if you have got a drawing, dining, and kitchen, instead of making 5-6 inches walls between them, you can do some partitions like a glass wall or some shear or something, which can make it look open, whereas you get that restricted visibility. There's something called in Urdu chilman, something you can put of that type. Then
That be a screen kind of a thing, sir?
yeah, something a screen sort of a thing you can make. You can make glass partition, you can make ply partition, and not make the complete partition. Like if there is an opening of say 15 feet between the drawing and dining, you just make a partition of say 3 or 4 feet on one side, which restricts the visibility towards the dining, whereas you can still have a open look. Plus, when you're making this partition, instead of using a brick separation, use something better. You've got a lot of things available: gypsum, ply, ACP sheets, or even some MDF work you can do on which can look aesthetic. Then you can when you're making a house, you will have to have columns and beams. So these look like protrusions on the side or on the top. So all these protrusions like columns, etc., you can amalgamate it into your house in terms of having the storage which covers that protrusion. So it reduces the ugly look which it is giving, and it still gives you adequate space. Some people go about putting a false ceiling all around the room. That's not required. Your false ceiling should also be only limited to making it aesthetically better, as also making it light efficient. That is, the best light is from the ceiling. So if you want to put lights on the ceiling, you should use false ceiling. But if you're making a standard false ceiling on all the four sides, it's no design. It's a contractor work. So these are a lot of ways where you can make your house efficient. When we discuss further, we can come out with more. I'll tell you how you can make your balcony better, how you can make your terrace better, and so on.
So, if I say what would you say are the top three space efficient house designs?
Top three space. There are actually a lot of things which you can do to improve your space. One of them, I said, avoid corridors within the house. Then is when you're making a balcony, your balcony should be full width. Rather, I'll start from the beginning. I'll start from the FAR. Suppose FAR, everybody understands, I suppose, the floor area ratio. Suppose your plot is say 500 yards. They tell you that you can make 2.5 times of that, or 2.8 times, like in Gurgaon, a 200 yard square plot, 200 yard square plot can have 3 FAR. That is, you can make 600 square yard worth of building into it. It has got its rules, bylaws. That is, you have to leave a setback in front, you have to leave a setback at the rear, you have to have a shaft which has got a particular dimension on all that. So when you're making that, utilize this complete FAR. However, be sure that you do not exceed it even by an inch, because if you exceed it, then they'll be held to pay, especially by the authorities. They'll make you run around, the JEs and others. Second is the height. If you have a house in Gurgaon, if you're making in Gurgaon, I'm just giving a Gurgaon example because I'm more conversant with the bylaws of this place. So here you are allowed to make 16.5 meters of height of a house, that is a building. So that works out to be somewhere around 55 feet. In that case, you can make each floor around 10 feet. So if your house is 10 feet high in interior, that is internally it is 10 feet high, you can have a storage of 1.5 to 2 feet at the roof level without having any problem or getting a restriction in terms of view, or you don't feel claustrophobic. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that if you have a 10 feet height storage roof, then if you make a storage of 1.5 feet along the roof, you still have 8.5 feet left below it. So it becomes a better place. That is, it doesn't give you a claustrophobic feeling. Next is, if there is a corridor, there will be some wastage of space beyond the doors. So in that space, again, you can make something which can give you storage, as also it covers your, it gives you a aesthetic look.
Sir, corridor नहीं होगा तो entry to rooms कैसे create करेंगे?
That is what is the smartness of the design. Like if you come to my house in Gurgaon, we have got a 500 square yard floor, but there is no corridor in it. So the flow is such that the main drawing, that is the drawing area, drawing and the living, they are contiguous, and thereafter it goes into the dining, and from the living it goes to two bedrooms, and from the dining come kitchen, that is once you move from dining to kitchen, the two other bedrooms are connected. So we have done it without any corridor, even in a 500 square yard plot. So
that gives you a lot of space in that case.
yeah, because if you suppose your corridor is say minimum width as per the guide is around 4.5 feet, and if the depth is say 8 feet, so you're wasting on 35-40 feet there. So
Yeah.
in 40 feet, a normal DDF flat toilet comes out.
Otherwise, also, sir, 40 feet would be a small study, 8 by 5 kind of a.
It may be a bit small for study, but 40 feet is perfect for a 5 by 8 toilet is 40 feet. And
5
if
by
you
8
have
toilet or
8 by
a
8,
storeroom.
yeah, a very good store will come out of that.
Yeah.
So that is what I was trying to say. Now, there's another thing in terms of using the balconies. We do not use the balconies properly. It's normal. Up dekho, standard builder floors will have a straight balcony in front, straight balcony at the rear, without using much of intelligence as to how to put. So, in one of the balconies, that is the front balcony, if you find it correct, you can have a balcony which has got more depth.
Depth से मतलब जिसकी width ज़्यादा हो, sir, is that what you say?
The depth a bit more. Normal balconies have got a depth limitation as per the building bylaws. Like in
कुछ
Gurgaon,
5.5 फुट का है ना sir?
नहीं, वो depend करता है आपका what is the plot size and what is the setback allowed in it. So in a 225 meter or beyond in Delhi, in Gurgaon, you have a setback of 3 meters. So
Okay.
you can have a setback of 3 meters, and half of that you can cover as balcony. So if you have left a setback of say 3.5 meters, you can have a balcony at the max of 1.8 meters. So suppose the balcony frontage is 25 feet. Out of that, in 15 feet, you have 6 by 15. That is 6 feet depth. But in that one side 10 feet, you can make the depth a bit more, that it goes to around say it becomes 10 feet. So what happens is that becomes a veranda where you can have a party or a barbecue or a small family get together. 10 by 10 outside sitting in a good weather like October or February is very, very good. We have done that in a house. And
But is it because the architects are not aware of the bylaws, or why would
the architects are aware of it, but it is easier to make a vanilla sort of a design. If you do some playing with it, then you have to do a lot of playing, because everything leads to the other. So because when you push the room inside, that is, you increase the balcony instead of 6 to 10, then that room has to be pushed further, and that has to be adjusted later. Understood? So that room, if you're making 12 by 15 size of room, then you have to add your what do you call that, almiras and other things. So all these things have to be played around.
But ये तो FAR waste हो रहा है ना sir, अगर ऐसा नहीं कर रहे हैं.
FAR waste, that is what I'm saying. So it depends whether you like a veranda or not, whether you are fond of a barbecue sort of an evening or not. If you're a family of say 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and there is a veranda which is 10 by 10, you can comfortably have a good evening sit out in good weather, or even during winters in the afternoons.
Even otherwise, it's space. Everyone is starved for space in
yeah, these things we advise when there is a plot of 500 or 800. Not in 200 also you can try, depending. If you've got a plot of 200 and you want 2-bedroom big size, then you can do this. But if you want 3-bedroom, then this thing cannot be done. Again, when there is a balcony, there are laws which allow you to cover it partially in temporary structure. You must have seen a lot of balconies covered with aluminum and glass sheets. So you can utilize that for that. Next is you can put pots over there, and below the pots, that is, you can make stands. Below the pots, you have a storage. Aapka jo washing material, this jhadu and other things are there, they can be always stacked in the rear balcony.
Janitorial stuff.
Janitorial services, they can be put in that. Then one of the ways is keeping your walls thinner. In India, we have a system where most of the walls are brick walls.
Mhm.
Internationally, this is not even a norm. Even for external walls, you have to tell the contractor or the builder that you want a brick wall outside. So they will give you brick wall. Otherwise, they will use other material which are thinner. So it increases the space. Here, it is more relevant because when you are making a partition between two rooms, two bedrooms, there are two
Mhm.
things of concern. One is the sound; it should not travel from one side to the other, and the second is how much space you can add.
Mhm.
So you can have a bedroom wherein two bedrooms can have a common wall wherein their wardrobes come in. So it looks straight and it gives you a better space. And behind the wardrobe, that is where the partition is, you can put soundproof material, which helps. It can reduce the uh, space.
तो मैं इसी आपके पॉइंट को एक बार, आई एम सॉरी टू इंटरप्ट हियर, जो मैं समझा हूँ आप ये बोल रहे हैं, इंस्टेड ऑफ हैविंग अ पार्टीशन वॉल, हैव अ
Hmm.
बैक टू बैक वार्डरोब इन टू बेडरूम्स, और
Yeah, that's
उनके बीच में हैव अ साउंड प्रूफिंग मटेरियल,
yeah,
so that you save on that space.
yeah. You do that. And some of us at places when there is a requirement where you want that wardrobe का जो area है, there you should have a changing space, so you further increase the depth, so you
Yes.
have another 2 feet wherein you make the changing space, so it becomes like a normal closet. So
Hmm.
you are getting my point.
Yeah, so basically, by removing the partition wall without any compromise on the safety of the structure, we have created more space.
Yeah,
और उसमें हमने इस्तेमाल किया है साउंड प्रूफिंग मटेरियल, सो दैट जो वॉल का एक फंक्शन है कि आवाज एंड प्राइवेसी मेंटेन रहे, वो भी हो जाता है. वी हैव प्रोवाइडेड फॉर वार्डरोब स्पेस.
yeah, that's right.
ऑसम. सर, जो आप एक्सटर्नल वॉल्स का बता रहे हैं, इसमें क्या अल्टरनेट मटेरियल्स अवेलेबल होते हैं?
External wall may in India normally what we are using the brick, whether it is mud brick or the cement bricks, they are the only options which are normally being used. However, you can have these walls in metal, but the expertise is very limited. And
मेटल.
come again?
मेटल सर.
Yeah, there are people who are making instead of columns and RCC in it. Like there is a building in Jindal Steel and Power Limited in Raigad. It is completely made on iron frames and iron sheets have been used. So it works out very fast, but then you have to have that type of expertise. Plus, it becomes a bit more costly because if you are using iron sheets, then you have to have cladding on both the sides so as to give the effect of a normal house. But so it becomes a bit
हमारे लिए वो तो नहीं पॉसिबल है.
हमारे लिए उतना पॉसिबल नहीं है. However, we can have within the internal partitions can be in a different manner. You can have
Even for
RCC.
the even for the external walls, sir,
External में, I'll just give it.
just
An external में, if the architect is good, he can work out on RCC wall. Instead of 10 inches wall, you can make 3 inches wall. That is 75 mm. So, but that will be RCC. The problem is that if you make an RCC wall, either you have to plan your entire electrical and other fittings in advance and make provisions for that, or you have to have a cladding on top of it, which will cater for the electrical fitting or plumbing fitting. Ideally,
तो
the
ये
RCC should
कुछ
include that.
काइंड ऑफ माइवन टेक्नोलॉजी हो गया ना सर, आपने पूरे घर को ही कास्ट कर दिया एक तरह
हाँ,
से.
आपने पूरे घर को कास्ट कर दिया. I've seen a house made like that, but that was an architect's house who was very capable, and he has made a house which has got all external walls are RCC walls, and he has planned his uh, electrical fittings and other things in advance. So his entire layout of the house was ready before the first brick was casted.
And how much would be the cost impact there, sir, in terms of?
Cost will be more than double.
Yeah, because you are casting everything. So
Casting is very costly compared to this. A brick wall, if it is say around 150, 180 per square feet, this will be somewhere around 500 rupees per square feet.
wow.
So
But what
that's
about the strength?
strength is much better. Strength is RCC will any day be better. Like when you make a basement, like where I'm sitting is a basement. This is a cutout and behind. So this is another way of using the space. Here, what we have done is we have made a basement and there is a cutout, but to avoid water coming down, we have made a glass top on that. So it has got a glass top there, which prevents water coming down into it, and then the subsequent problem of sucking out water from the basement. A cutout is a very good thing if you're making a basement,
Gives
and
you
especially
that
a cutout which is covered with glass, so that there's
gives you
no.
the light.
Come again?
Gives you that required sunlight and
Yeah, it gives a lot of
doesn't
light during
look
daytime.
like a basement then.
Yeah, and doesn't make you feel claustrophobic or dull during the daytime.
Okay, so does the external facade of the house has any impact on the internal space usage?
External facade always matter. Actually, when we were talking about the balcony and the veranda, I wanted to tell that only. In all the states and municipalities, they have laid down construction norms. For example, I told you there is a limit prescribed in Gurgaon that you can have. So I'm just giving an example of 600, 500 square or 225 meter and beyond property. So you have got a limit wherein you can make 6 feet front balcony, you can make a 5 feet rear balcony, and you can make 1 meter. They're all in meters actually, 1.8, 1.5, and 1 side balcony. A smart thing to do is, if you understand it well, the FAR with the current FAR, 60% coverage is allowed. So if you calculate it, you will always have a setback which is more than 3 in front and at the rear also. So you make a passage on the side. If you make a passage on the side, it gives additional light to the house and it improves your entire requirement of light, and that is the daylight and electricity. Plus, you can make 1 meter of balcony on the side, which can be subsequently used, or while making also you can cover it partially as in a temporary structure, that is aluminium or UPVC or something like that with glass, and that will become your storage. So if you have made it in a way that there was a window inside your house, which an opening inside your house which facing the balcony, that becomes your storage, a very nice storage. So your facade makes a whole lot of difference. Plus, when you're working out, the eastern side and the southern side preferably should have maximum possible windows and doors in glass openings, because India is in the northern hemisphere. That is the Tropic of Cancer goes from India, Ranchi and that area. So the sun will always be towards the south. When you're making a house in India, you should cater that when the sun is going from east to west, it should give enough light. So if you've got a passage on the eastern side, it will help a lot. Suppose your house is south facing or north facing, and if a passage on the eastern side, it will help. Similarly, if your house is east facing, have a passage on the southern side, it will help. So these are the different things. So these things all come in the facade. Plus, nowadays you will find a lot of houses with a lot of iron cladding in front on other sides. There is a limit up to which you should do it, because when you put iron cladding, it adds on to the weight. Adds on to the weight on the structure. So it weighs down the structure. It adds on to the cost, and then it reduces the light. So iron cladding or anything which you do to make the property look good should have a limit. If you go beyond that, it will start being counterproductive.
नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन सर, हमारे पहले वाले जो घरों के डिजाइन होते थे, मतलब जो लेट्स से इफ आई टॉक अबाउट माय ग्रैंडमाज होम और समथिंग, तो उसमें उन लोगों ने स्टोरेज के लिए बिल्कुल ही एक अलग जगह बना रखी होती थी जिसको स्टोर ही कहते थे. Nowadays that is missing. Do you think that will help in terms of movement inside the house or reducing the clutter and giving it more space? Yeah. How would you? Is it even advisable to have a store in the house?
I would say it's totally dependent on the user. It is, after all, how well you are able to plan the thing. If I feel the storage is required for me, I should be getting one. We normally work out in a manner that every space, that is your drawing room, your dining, your living, your kitchen, bedrooms, everything should have adequate spaces. Now for your kitchens, that is especially the storage is either for your clothes or for the kitchen and things like that. So if you're able to plan it, that if your kitchen is say 10 by 15 and you want to plan storage in that, you can have adequate storage if you have done it properly. And the worst area where which we don't use properly are the corners, because we try to put fancy gadgets inside that, but we never use it. They stay static. So how do you use that? There is another option. Like if your kitchen is on the say one end of the house, I mean to say that there is a balcony across. So that corner, the opening of that part can be in the balcony. You're getting my point?
Mm-hmm.
So if your kitchen, the modular kitchen slab, below that the corner part can be opened from the balcony or from the other bedroom if there is a bedroom, instead of making it a corner, because that corner part gets wasted. So these are small things which an architect can work out. However, as far as storage is concerned, you have storage everywhere. Your sofas can have storage, your bed can have storage, so can be your side tables, your study table. And a very simple thing which we do often is, when you're making a dining table, there is a gap between the space up to which your when you're sitting there, your leg requires, and the table. So if there is a gap of say 3 inches, that area you can utilize for another storage for keeping your table mat and small things which otherwise keep hanging around on the table. Even your cutlery you can put in that, the day-to-day use cutlery. So these are very small things, but it's all in the design thing. So if the architect or the designer is working on it, he can provide you.
अच्छा सर, एक चीज और, जैसे अभी लोगों के पास जैसे जैसे पैसे आ रहे हैं तो गाड़ियां भी आ रही हैं, कार पार्किंग becomes a huge challenge anywhere, whether it is a society or floors or individual कोठरी or whatever one may call it. So is it advisable to have those stack parkings जो आजकल एक metal stacks में आती हैं, park one on top of another?
Actually, we should, in everything which we do, we should understand there has to be a balance between the utility and the financial or the economic optimization of that. So
Right.
when the cost of land is less, then trying to save on land part is less important. But when the cost of land is more, then trying to cost on the land part is more important. Like if you go to Connaught Place, there are that multi-level parking. However, when you're making a house, even in, I'm talking of a normal society type of a thing where there is, you're making a society of say 150, 200 houses, stacking parking becomes much more costly and it needs regular maintenance and upkeep. Whereas if you have one level of basement or you have stilt, it gives you adequate, it meets your requirement. So stacking parking is very much possible and it is a very good idea, but that is very suitable for places like Connaught Place or commercial places, or if it is say Singapore, so that is the Sentosa or some place where the cost of land is so high that you want to save on everything and you stack it in multi-stories.
सर बट अभी तो बिल्डर्स से पार्किंग भी 5-5 लाख में मिलता है.
That is nothing much can be said on that, because that
इवन अदरवाइज सर, जो अगर हम मान लीजिए एक स्टेट प्लस 4 का भी घर बनाते हैं गुड़गांव जैसे शहर में 200 स्क्वायर यार्ड में भी, तो इट विल बी say 4 car parks in that house on the stilt level.
Yeah, that's right.
But nowadays slowly with double income families, with people, दिखने में 200 गज लगता है सर, बट वो हम बात करोड़ों की कर रहे हैं, बिकॉज जमीन और कंस्ट्रक्शन दोनों इतना महंगा हो गया. अब 2 गाड़ियां आई थिंक और 5-7 साल में इट विल बिकम अ नॉर्म.
Hope it changes the other way with things like Ola, Uber and other things growing up. But you're very right.
वो भी बढ़ती रहेंगी सर, वो कम नहीं होंगी. मेट्रो आया तो ऐसा नहीं है कि डीटीसी की बस में भीड़ कम होगी या कैब्स कम चल रही है या सो पॉपुलेशन भी उसी स्पीड से ग्रो हो रहा है एंड आवर वेल्थ इज आल्सो द जीडीपी एंड ओवरऑल. सो and as of today, in spite of all that, they say that penetration of cars per household is not to the global standards in India. So I would say जब वो global standards में हो जाएंगे तो शायद पार्किंग ही बना के बेचने में भी फायदा हो जाएगा कुछ?
In various places, there are people who are just making parkings. So
हाँ.
if there is a society where all are plotted 200, but it's a high-end society, then it is worth making a parking and selling it. So you can make a parking in a different area, and that covers about, say, another 500 yards. Because a parking, what you're talking of in 200, 300, even a basement parking is not practical in such cases, because you need some reversing space, some parking space, turning space. So that becomes difficult. So minimum
Bylaws also don't permit basement parking.
bylaws allow you about basement, but not for parking.
Yeah.
Parking is at still level. You can get that basement approved for parking. I'm not very sure. I've never tried it. You may get, but then it will not be worth trying it, in the sense the amount of space which you will get is only that much, which is the FAR. So if you're covering 60% of 200 yards, it's 120 yards.
हाँ, तो
So
उसमें दो
120
गाड़ी मैक्सिमम आएंगी,
1000
बेसमेंट चला
feet.
जाएगा.
Yeah, so it will be very tight.
तो ये नेक्स्ट आर्किटेक्चरल डिजाइन प्रॉब्लम होगा सर सिटीज डिजाइन करने में, बिकॉज गाड़ियां ज्यादा भी हो रही हैं, बड़ी भी हो रही हैं.
Yeah, everybody wants a SUV.
Yeah, and India does not have that kind of space. We are not the largest country by land.
That's right. Hopefully, the public transport systems improve, because in India, one of the major reasons for people using 2, 3, 4 cars in a family is that the public transport system is not as good as it should be. Like where we are in Gurgaon, if you see, there's only one metro in Gurgaon, and that is only up to Huda city center. What beyond, for people who are going up to Hero, Honda, or Chalk, or 89 sector 90 and all that? Even for the new Gurgaon, that is, I'm not talking of the Sona side. I'm talking of the Dwarka Gurgaon Expressway. They're also not catered for metro till now. They're all in planning stage, whereas the density is increasing there.
Without digressing from the issue, because you are more learned in this space, I was just trying to score a point कि parking का भी stacking करने से space बच सकता है. So coming to what you have covered for us, one, doing away with corridors and passageway in the internal design can help in terms of creating space. Then partitions can be thinner, or there can be, partitions can be more, जैसा आपने वो बताया था, Chilman type या उस तरह से जो.
Yeah, you can have partitions. That is you can design something which looks like a partition, but it is not
a
closing
partition.
space. Yeah.
Then columns and beams can be integrated and in the design, and they can also be used for alongside storage to create storage.
Yeah, that's right.
Similarly, corners can be utilized better when the house is being designed. Then using the height up till 10 feet gives a more open and more roomier and more spacious feel.
Yeah.
And finally, if someone has the budget, then the exterior walls can be RCC. They will cost more, but they'll give space and more strength to the building. But it's going to be very expensive.
That's right. Yeah. And
sir, I would say my questions are done. I would open it to the audience if they have.
I'll add a few more things. Like whenever you're making whenever you're getting a space where the movement of people is less, at that place, at the ceiling level, you should always have some storage, because in India we need storage everywhere. And one thing which
जिसको वो alcove या दुछत्ती बोलते थे सर पहले.
दुछत्ती types का, but mezzanine floor we can't make, because for mezzanine floor you need minimum height of the roof should be 5 meters.
Okay.
So that is not practical. That is not very feasible. So you can have just the storage instead of having mezzanine floor.
But वहाँ कुछ किया जा सकता है.
हाँ, that's right. अगर 10 feet का है, your height is the tall guys are on 6 plus, so you still have 1.5 feet, 7.5, 8. Beyond that, you can have some storage, but it should not be in the center of the house or in the center of the room, because then it will defeat the entire purpose.
हाँ, वो थोड़ा aesthetically भी अजीब सा होता है.
Yeah. And one thing which we should also cater for is that you should, whenever you're making a house, make your doors and windows big. It helps. It gives aesthetically, it looks more majestic. Plus, it gives you adequate light coming from outside into the house.
So it's ingress and also easy movement. Also easy.
Movement is much easier. That's right.
Right. That's another nice point. I would say, sir, if audience has any question, I mean, it has been a very educative and informative talk. Yes, Sanjay sir, आप अपना mic unmute करके please question पूछिए.
Yeah. Good evening, Biraj sir. Good evening, Captain Vipul,
Good
and good
evening.
evening to all the audiences.
Sir.
Sir, as always, it's always a pleasure interacting with you all, and we look forward to such a webinar. It's very, very knowledgeable. Sir, I have just 2 to 3 queries, if you can enlighten me also and to everyone else as well. Sir, budget is always a constraint for any 4G.
Yeah, that's right.
And we want the optimum utilization of every penny. Now, sir, what is your recommendation with respect to the wood that we should use?
What
The wood in the house, primarily for the frames, door frames, and the doors. That is one. Should we go for, say, MP teak, say Indian MP teak, or we go for, say, African teak, or we can have a combination of the same? That is my first question.
Okay.
So my second question is, what type of a central water heating system should we go for, or should we don't go for it? And if we go for it, should we go for a central water heating tank, or should we go for the central solar geyser, or should we go for individual geysers?
Okay.
And my third question is, with respect to the Italian, which you had, in fact, last time also you had touched upon. So to have it with respect to the interior decoration, or so that it can give you a lot of flexibility, and yet it is within your means. So say the beige color is the cheapest one, come to gray, little costly, come to white, very costly. So if we can, if we have to go for marble, so can we again divide it with respect to different floors and change the, of course, converting the rooms into tiles? So how can we save on the marble, and what would be the best, should I say, where can we procure the marble at the best price?
Okay.
And my fourth question is, sir, should we go for the solar panels as a backup of electricity?
संजय सर, इतने सवालों के पैसे लगने चाहिए.
Okay, I'll cover one by one.
Sir.
Firstly, the wood. There is a dichotomy as to, one is you want to make it very, very lavish. You have got a lot of money, and one is ideal and optimized economically.
Sure.
So ideally, Chap or Miranti are very good. So that should be used as your chocolate, and you can give it a teak look. If you want to make it look like teak, you can give it a teak look. It's not very difficult. You can either get it paint polished in teak color, or you can have a veneer if you want to spend, or you can have laminate. I'm talking of the sides of the door and its beading. As far as the door is concerned, door again same thing. You can have a teak frame with that is, the frame is in teak and the balance part is in ply with veneer and gives a good look. The important thing is that चाहे वो चौखट हो या door हो, the thickness जिसको और जिसमें door का thickness, that is पताम होता, that matters. So if it is say 40 mm types, it will look good. If it is 25, that is 1 inch, 1.25 inch, तो अच्छा नहीं लगेगा. If it is around 1.75, 2 inches, it will look good. And then the size. So the size does matter. Next is the water heating and solar panel. These are two related things. I would always recommend in today's times, you must have solar panel, but don't go overboard that your terrace gets spoiled. If you have got your house with you've got the terrace, so you understand what is a mumty? That is the stairs when they lead to the terrace and the lift.
Yes.
So the best place is cover the mumty, and you can use these solar panels in a manner that it creates a shed
Thanks.
at the terrace. Not only for the tank, I'm talking of, it can create a shed that is, suppose your terrace is say 30 feet by 60 feet. So 30 feet by 20 feet area you can cover with the solar panels, and below that you create a false ceiling. So that area becomes your sit out on the terrace.
Right. Right.
And these solar panels should be used for all types of electricity usage, and separate water heating system is not required. I don't find it very important, because when you have got solar panels, which is giving you say 2, 3, 4, 5 kilowatt of heat, that energy, then you might as well use that for your geysers and everything. There's a friend of mine who has got his entire house 12 months there on AC, because he has got adequate solar panels put. His entire house, that is more than 2 floors, are completely run by solar, including air conditioning. So it is very much feasible and you can do it. Next is the Italian marble thing. What is the question? I am not able to understand. What is the query in that?
Yes, sir. The Italian marble. So when we go to the market, we find it is varying from say around 250 right up to almost say around 750. A good one I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So I say I'm looking at a beige, some combination of beige come gray. So you visit StoneX or you visit Arcades. I mean, there's a wide variation. Everybody say that they are the best.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the recommended range where one can go for, sir?
What is the financial what do you call it? I would say budget you are planning on, in the sense you can have exactly Italian marble looking tiles which are a square meter size, that is 1 meter by 1 meter. It can be 4 by 2, it can be 32 inches by 32 inches, which will give you almost the feel and look of Italian marble. That is point one, which will come, including fixing it, will be around 200, 250. Because Italian marble, the story doesn't finish with the marble. Firstly, when you're saying it is at 250, then you consider 10% is wastage, so it becomes 275 per square feet. Putting and polishing, diamond polish, etc., will be another 100, 150 rupees. So 250 will actually become 450.
Oh.
So that is the cost factor. If you are okay with it, Italian marble is good. However, all Italian marble and that type of marbles have got a problem that they wear. Firstly, they will wear. Secondly, you need polishing. And thirdly, wherever there is, I would say, some gap created, you'll have to get it filled, silicone filling, and then the polish done. So there is a heavier cost of maintenance on that. So if you are okay with it, Italian marble original will look Italian marble and the tiles will look tiles. If you are used to seeing them as I would say a professional. For a normal man, he doesn't realize whether it is Italian marble or it is tile, especially high-end tiles, 150 to 125 rupees tiles. There's no polish required. The amount of scratch, etc., which take place if you shift some heavy furniture on the tile, the chances of damage is less than that on the marble, any type of marble, even in Indian marble. And half the time, a lot of people are cheated by, instead of Italian marble, they will give you this Katni, there is Egyptian marble. There are a lot of marbles which they pass on as Egyptian, Italian, but they are not Italian. So they come in the range of 70 rupees to 150, 200 rupees. That can be done. But Italian marble, if you put it, it looks good. And especially if the pieces are big. So if you are able to put, say, 8 feet by 4 feet type of Italian marble, if your drawing room size is, say, 25 by 30 types, then those are worth it.
So with Vipul's permission, just 2 more small points.
सर आप बाकी फिर आप सर से you can answer.
Quick. Sir, the point is, for internal plumbing, is it recommended for CPVC or we should go for aluminium type of something like akin to Vega pipes? And what is the security system that we should go for a house today?
PVC pipes, different types, depending upon the usage and the load it is to carry, is any day better than any metal, because all metals will have some types of corrosion and erosion. So PVC, different UPVC or rather PVPC and other things, they are any day better. And second point, what was the second thing?
The security system.
You're talking of the higher you go, the more complicated they become, the costlier they are. So there are alarm systems wherein all entrances of your house are covered, but then you have to switch them on every night and switch them off every morning. Plus, you can have your CCTVs. And there is one system which is prevalent in NCR, that is We Protect by, I think SIS does it. So they have got an alarm system wherein anything which uh, uh, unusual happens, they'll get a call and their team will come up.
Okay.
So there are various types. So we can cover it individually one to one subsequently.
Right. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, Vipul.
Welcome.
Thanks a ton.
I would say anyone else has a question, we still have another 4-5 minutes to go. Meanwhile, I'll request if you don't want to miss out on our future notifications for these talks, please join our Telegram group. Colonel Sahay is also there in case you have a follow-up question. You can ask him in the Telegram group. And we also have a YouTube channel where we upload the edited versions of these talks. You can have a look at the earlier talks there. I've posted the link of the YouTube channel as well. So my request would be if you can just become a member of the Telegram group of Value Talks as well as subscribe to the YouTube channel. Mayuresh Krishna, are there any tax credits for using alternative? So there's a question in the chat box if you can read it.
Yeah, actually, Beverage, basically in India, you can, whatever power you generate using solar, you can give it back to the grid, and that is credited into your energy part. So you can use it back. So there is nothing like tax credit, but it is basically an exchange of power. You give your power to the grid, and then when you use the grid's power, they get negated.
So it's kind of you're producing your own electricity and
Yeah, you're selling it to the government, and the government is selling it back when you need it.
at almost the same price.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. So it's not exactly a tax break, but it's kind of an.
Yeah, you're like power cannot be stored, so it is utilized during daytime. You're using it, not using it that much. At night you're using your AC. So whatever power you're given to the grid, you can get it back. That much of power when you consume in the evening, using your grill or AC or whatever, that will be offset, just like GST.
Awesome. Any other question? Anyone else? I think, sir, we are done with this. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate your time and knowledge you imparted to us. If anyone else has any question, please feel free to ask in our Telegram group. Thank you so much. Have a nice weekend. Right, sir?
Thank you, Vipul. There are many small things which one can do while planning and organizing one's house. And one of the very, very technical part is organizing your storage and your space allocation. These two things go hand in hand. And if you can do it well, a very small thing I'll say, like if there is a drawer you have made for the lady of the house. So when you put your intimates and accessories, if you just make it a drawer of 18 inches by 24 inches, it doesn't serve that purpose. But if you bifurcate it as per what she needs, then that becomes more organized. So it's a very small thing, but there are so many things like that wherein you can utilize the spaces much better and make it feel good.
Nice tips, sir. So I would say the audience should come back to you more on this.
Thank you.
Thanks to the audience for their time. Right, sir?
Thank you, everyone.
Gotta focus on yourself, on your faith, on your dreams, on